talk scientifically for a minute regarding cloud computing. What made it possible? Was there an innovation, a development that led to this?
Probably the biggest change was the application of Moore's law, that is the computers getting faster, to networking. And all of a sudden we were able to have this phenomenal speed on the networks and the wireless networks and so forth. It used to be that the network was slow and the little computer was fast. Now the network is fast enough that you can spread the computer out all over the place.
And is there a concern with storage space, for example, for data?
Believe it or not, data is getting better, faster than even the speed of CPUs in terms of the amount we can put on. You can, in your hand, hold a terabyte. That is an infinite amount of information compared to what we could do 5 years ago.
You essentially have extra space for data at this point?
We all do. We now measure data in petabytes.
What's a petabyte?
It's not a crime. It's just a very large number of terabytes.
So the stars have aligned, in other words, to make cloud computing possible and efficient.
It's really three things that have happened at once. Computers have gotten so powerful that they can be tiny and amazingly useful. The network, both the wireless and the wired network, have gotten so fast that almost everything can travel over them, including television. And then the disks themselves that you needed to keep on your computer, we can now have these huge data farms. And they're getting so much more powerful that we can make sure we keep all your information there and we don't lose it like you will.
So why is this important? Why do people say this is the next big thing, cloud computing?
Well, a simple question for a consumer is, have you ever dropped your computer? Have you ever broken it? Has it ever not worked on you? Have you ever sat there and said, how do I back this thing up? Oh no, I just lost my term paper. In cloud computing, the professionals keep track of all the programs and the data, and they make sure you don't lose it. And you can take any device, plug it in, connect it, and it's all right there. A simple analogy for you. For women, they'll have multiple purses, and they'll pick up the purse, and imagine that the purse always has exactly the right thing in it. It's the same thing. You just grab the thing, and there it is. There's all that information. You don't have to worry about configuring it. Which one is it? Is it fast enough?
To which a cynic might say, hey, Google was down for several hours recently and previously as well. If the network goes down, I don't have anything.
Well, it was a terrible thing, and we work really hard to make sure that doesn't happen. I can tell you that we're down a lot less than your computer is.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
So that is not an issue?
It's not going to be an issue today, and it's certainly not going to be an issue in the future as we get better and better.
So how do you make sure that happens?
Well, technically, we use something called redundancy. We literally replicate all the services. So it's very, very difficult to attack or break these systems because there's at least two of everything.
The obvious question is, if you or Salesforce or IBM or somebody else has my data in your servers, why should I rest easy? There's a chance that they could do something with it, that they could give it to the government. Whatever.
Well, if it's in your servers, our government can take it too. So it's important to understand that we operate under exactly the same laws that you do. And if your information is so important you have to hide it from the government, we probably don't want you to give it to us anyway.
But the idea of a third party keeping information, how do I know that my competitor isn't going to be able to get it?
The rough analogy is that of the bank system. When you go to the bank and you get money out, it comes out every time, right? And in the 1930s, people were very, very concerned that it wouldn't come out. The systems, the networks, the governance, the rules now make the kind of scenario where somehow your information gets stolen or so forth very, very unlikely.
Some of the people who worry about those things, Electronic Frontier Foundation, for example, said the rules need to be changed. They aren't adequate at this point. They're old-fashioned, and they need to be upgraded. Do you buy that?
It depends on which rules. We have always been in favor of stronger privacy protections, and we are concerned about things like the Patriot Act, which apply to everyone, including all Americans, including companies like Google. But overall, the technology and the usage pattern will flourish under the current set of regulations.
You sound as though, just listening to you, that you're saying, I'm not too worried about the privacy issue. And some people really are.
We always worry about privacy. There are some people who care very deeply about privacy. And for them, remember that they can always keep their own copy, put it in the mattress, just like they can keep their money away from the bank. It's important to know that this is not the only model. But for most people, the convenience, the speed, the professionalism of the next generation of cloud computing providers will so overwhelm the danger of their own losing of the data, misplacing their disk. You put the world's most important data on this single disk drive and you put it under your mattress and you go back the next year and it's not there, you've got a problem.
Is Google actually in all of its applications and its work around here working through the cloud always?
Google has to pioneer cloud computing in our own use. So we run the company literally using cloud computing. We have massive internal servers. We keep everything on the servers. We don't care whether you use a personal computer or a Mac or a mobile phone. All of the information is available to you. It's what we do.
Where did this term cloud come from?
The clouds came 20 years ago because in the old authoring system, the way you would make a symbol of a network is you draw a series of concentric circles overlapping, and they would become a little cloud. And ultimately that became the term cloud computing.
Now, where is it going at this point? Is it moving fast enough for you? A lot of people getting onto it, or is there some skepticism?
This has never happened fast enough for me. We've been in the industry, we've been working on this, and many of the people that you've talked with have worked on it together for 10 or 15 years. We were right then, but we didn't have the underlying network, the underlying performance that we have today. So every indication says that the market is ready, the technology is ready, and the growth rate is really very, very fast.
Now, those companies, and there are 5 or 6 of them, I guess, who are involved in this, seem to be competing with each other, but they also seem to be cooperating with each other. Straighten that out for me.
This competition and cooperation is the norm in the Internet. We all benefit by having people move from the older systems, the locked PC systems, if you will, to these open networks. But once you move there, we compete vigorously over this solution for that solution. That competition is very good for consumers.
And what about in terms of making this a profit center? Are there going to be charges for this? Are individuals or just businesses going to have to pay for cloud computing? Is it going to cost money in the long run or save money? What?
All the studies indicate that it's much, much cheaper than what you're paying today. So the good news is prices are going down. Most companies in this space right now are offering things mostly for free because they want customers. Eventually, people will use some combination of free and subscriptions, but in all cases, it looks like it's going to be much, much cheaper than the cost that people bear today.
And there'll be charges for using it, or there already are, or what?
It depends. Some people will use advertising. Google likes that model. Other people will have monthly subscriptions. In our case, in our enterprise business, we actually charge a per-user, per-year fee of $50, which is plenty cheap.
Mm-hmm. So what do you envision? Do you envision all business eventually moving to this model?
We envision the average consumer and the average business doing their normal daily work using cloud computing. We don't think it will replace all forms of computing. We think that there will always be specialized computers, that special computer that does this unique thing that you'll have a special staff managing. But for routine activities in a corporation, communications, email, authoring, presentations, all the normal discussions that go on in a corporation, cloud computing is a much, much better choice. The same is true for individuals with their computers because, frankly, they spend too much time tinkering. It's like when you're a 16-year-old boy and you go out and you want to repair the car. You don't have to do that anymore. Now the car just works.